Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is your
And that ball is belted!
Photo News Fix. This fix is brought to you by me and the Super Huger Mega Camera Giveaway for 2023 and 2024. That's right, it's back. Now, for those of you who are new here, the Super Huger Mega Camera Giveaway is where I give one grand prize winner $3,499.99 of my own money to spend on anything they want at Allen's Camera. And if the winner purchased any of my preset packs, they will score an extra $1,500 to spend on anything they want at the store, giving them a grand prize total of $4,999. Now, there is no purchase necessary, but you can score extra entries if you purchase FroPack 1, 2, 3, 4, or the Grand Slam Bundle, or if you already own them, you are already entered with the right amount of entries. Now, for full contest rules and to score extra free entries, head on over to bit.ly/megafro234 and good luck. Last week, the news was dominated by new lenses from Canon, and this week it's dominated by a Sony lens and a Sony body, so let's jump right in. First up, Sony has officially announced the 300 2.8G master lens for the Sony E-mount. But Jared, didn't they already do that? No, they actually didn't. They previously announced the development of one, but now it's officially official, and I've used it in the real world. Now, I was able to take the lens out a few weeks ago to photograph a Philadelphia Union soccer match, and our full review will be out as soon as Dan finishes it.
The video's done, man.
This is Sony's first 300 2.8, and it's so long overdue that it might be too late, ?
Damn it! Who typed a question mark?
More on that in just a second, but first, this lens is small and light. So small and light that Sony says as of November 2023, it's the world's lightest 300mm telephoto prime. Now, the first time I saw the size of this lens, my jaw dropped. I honestly thought that it was a 70 to 200 2.8 in the image. And the first time that I took it out of the box, I realized that this is a hand-holdable 300 2.8, even if you look like this guy. It weighs in at only 3.2 pounds or 51.9 ounces, and to put that into perspective, Canon's 100 to 300 2.8 weighs in at 5.7 pounds and is hand-holdable only if you look like this guy. This G-Master lens houses two XD linear motors for blazing fast autofocus even when shooting at 120 frames per second with the brand new A9 III. This is a masterful lens that Sony has engineered that is going to lead to some really fantastic images. So what's it cost? Well, the 300 2.8 GM will set you back $6,000, which is close to what older DSLR 300mm cost from Canon and Nikon. Now, with all of that said, how does it stack up against the 100 to 300 2.8 from Canon? Well, weight-wise, it's light, and price-wise, it's $3,500 cheaper, but versatility-wise, it cannot hold a candle to Canon's 100 to 300. Now, I say that because you're locked in at 300mm no matter what. In soccer, I lose out on that action around the net as well as celebrations after a goal is scored. Whereas with a 100 to 300, I can do so much more. There's a reason Nikon came out with a 120 to 300 2.8 in the past and not another fixed 300 2.8. Now, at the end of the day, Sony's 300 2.8 is an amazing lens, full stop. But I can't just stop there. I like to talk. But given the choice, if I have to go with a 300 2.8 from Sony or a 100 to 300 from Canon, I'm going with the 100 to 300 all day because versatility wins out over weight.
Does versatile mean full of eggs?
Now, Steven and I will be going much deeper into everything from the 300 2.8 versus the Canon 100 to 300 to the new A9 III, which is the next story in Photo News Fix, as to why Ken Griffey Jr. stopped by the studio. We'll talk about all of that and more on the next FroKnowsPhoto Raw Talk, which comes out every Friday. Just look for episode number 76 wherever you get your podcasts, or head on over to FroKnowsPhoto.com/podcast. And finally, the A9 III. After years of thinking Sony was done with the A9 lineup, they dropped the A9 III with some truly revolutionary specs that will push Nikon and Canon to the max to compete with it. But the biggest unknowns right now are, is it too revolutionary for its own good? Is it too early for this tech? And will its price point hurt it in the long run? Now, I did get my hands on the A9 III up in New York City a few days ago at the Sony event and was able to test out many of the new features. But anyway, let's start with the key specs. The A9 III is the first full-frame mirrorless camera to sport a global shutter sensor. Now, for those who don't know what that is, a global shutter means every pixel of the sensor is captured at once versus sensors that scan from top to the bottom to capture an image or video. Just think about any mirrorless camera that came before this. The stack sensor clocks in at 24.6 megapixels and is capable of capturing still images up to a whopping 120 frames per second with full autofocus in compressed RAW for 192 frames or 1.6 seconds, and employs a feature that I've been waiting for a long time called pre-capture. Yes, the Nikon Z9 and Z8 have offered pre-capture, but only in JPEG.
Baby, I like it raw.
The A9 III allows you to pre-capture for up to 1 second prior to fully pressing the shutter button. When your finger is pressed halfway down, images are being buffered continuously. Now, as soon as you press the shutter to take the photo, the pre-release images that are in the buffer get saved, and so do the new images that you're taking. Now, other notable features include a top shutter speed of 1/80,000th of a second, and being that it has a global shutter sensor, a flash sync speed of anything you want.
Everything?
Anything, even 1/80,000th of a second. Sony went ahead and refined the shutter button along with its placement and made improvements to the body itself, including adding a C5 button that's preset to speed boost up to 120 frames per second when you press it and when you need it. They also added a new battery grip with the new C5 button included on there for when you go vertical. That actually feels really nice in the hands. And when you do have two batteries in the camera, it doesn't drain battery 1 and then battery 2. It uses them both at the same time, which should give you about 15% more battery life. Sony is still going with the dual card slots that allow you to use CF Express A cards as well as SD cards as well, versus going with the faster, cheaper, but slightly larger CF Express B cards. Now, in terms of price, you're looking at $6,000, which is $1,500 more than the A9 II and pretty damn close to the price of the flagship A1. Now, very few people that I've spoken to who have an A1 are going to be replacing it with the A9 III. Now, there's still a lot of unknowns, as the A9 III that I used was only on firmware 0.8 as well as being a pre-production body, and we can't open the RAW files just yet to compare them to the A1 or anything else. What we did notice is that the lowest ISO is only 250 and not 100, and we don't know how a global shutter will affect dynamic range as well as image quality, and like I said, there's a lot of unknowns. But what I do know is Sony is continuing to innovate and push the industry further, faster than ever before. It's going to be interesting to see how Nikon counters, which I don't think they're going to be able to counter anytime soon.
Plexiglass. Had it installed last week.
And what will the R1 bring from Canon? We'll have to wait and see when they finally give us the specs of that.
When will then be now?
Don't forget, be sure to check out Raw Talk 76 for much more on everything we talked about here. And there you have it. Thank you very much for watching. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.